All right, folks, I'm a little bit early this morning, but looks like everything has started. We can go in the room. So, welcome to the U.S. Retail News Report. We've also got PPI, and there's another report. I'll show you. I forgot what it is. My name is Lee Goldstein, Trading Director for 10-Minute Trades. Please remember that all the trades we discuss are for educational purposes. It is possible to lose money trading futures. It's also possible to spend money trading futures. That's what I was going to say. Um, there is risk in all trading, so trade carefully. All right, Empire State. Empire State doesn't usually come out on time. Let's take a real quick look at Forex Factory. So, good morning, everybody, and good morning on YouTube. The reason I want to look at Forex Factory, just for a second, there's so many reports. One of the Philly Fed, Empire State, Virginia, the Virginia Fed report. One of them comes out a minute early. It's not Empire State, but Empire State has not been coming out on time. Now, so today is complicated. I was seriously considering doing a family money trade on this. And let me see a couple of things. And the testing it doesn't allow it. A family money trade is a trade that's basically, you want it to be fairly stress-free, reliable in its profits, of course. And I have to say that unfortunately, retail, it just isn't there yet. It has been trading much, much better than it had been in the past. Since we found the trap trade set up for it. But this week is a very difficult week because of the Fed. That's one of the reasons. There is an unbelievable amount of attention on the Fed. There's extra attention on PPI because PPI is producer prices. Everybody's fanatically worried about inflation. I mean, I say everybody, market watchers, market makers, everybody worried about inflation. PPI, if it was trading by itself, it wouldn't be a family trade, but it would be a tradable report. It would be a report that I probably would trade in my test account, but it's not trading by itself. And it has a history of about half the time trading with retail. It does trade with retail quite a bit. So PPI is one of those reports that maybe you'll get it half 6 times a year where it'll trade by itself, and 6 times a year where it'll trade with a lot of other news or other news. But you can see this morning, the issue this morning is PPI, Empire State, and retail. Makes it a little bit trickier, even though there are previous trades with PPI. If you go back to January, let me just turn off the sound. And I guess the other reason it's not family yet is because we're not all trained on the new trap trade yet. And if it were a family trade, I would still do it. But I think people need to get, as soon as I solve the problem with the programmer, we're getting together Friday. we should have a solution for the trap trade update. So this was January. In January, we weren't yet on a trap trade with retail. I was just looking for a reversal trade in January. And this is live, real, the real trade. And it just didn't give us a big enough initial move. And it was all negative news, which should normally in the old days would have driven gold to the upside. But you could just see it was a weird candle for this type of important news. And it did trade with PPI, and it did trade with Empire. It traded exactly the way it's trading today. And it really didn't have that dramatic a move. And if you look at the news results, they were pretty bad, but it was a good offset. In other words, the difference between what was expected was pretty good. It should have had a much better move, and it didn't. So that's January. So that's problem number one. That, is anti-family money trade. Problem number one. Then you go to February. February also traded with PPI. No Empire. And now we were starting to test the trap trade. And we didn't really have our settings down yet. I think in February, my size of my tiers, in other words, my orders, was a little bit large. And I think, if I remember correctly, we'll watch it, I may not have gotten filled. The tiers of the orders that we place above and below the current price, it touched that buy order. No, it did fill in February. And very positive news. I think, let's see if it stops out. Now, you could have gotten out without a loss right here. And I did. Because I didn't like the news result, and I didn't like the fact that the reversal wasn't really taking place at all. So, total of 6 ticks on gold. Not a big trap trade. You're risking, 35 ticks at least. So small winner in real life. Then we go to March. The issue that we're seeing is inconsistent results. Okay, so here's March. Let me get this video at the right time. We had the trap trade again, trying live. Now this is pre-family money trading. We were doing things differently in March. And March was the month that my orders were too big. That's what my memory is now. March, the orders were too big, so there was no fill. Let's see if, yeah. Maybe didn't wait as long as we would wait now. We would wait longer now. I waited 30 seconds. I don't think that's long enough anymore in this type of trade. But the tiers were not small enough to get us filled on the initial move. So the point is, we have not had a reliable setup because retail has been very difficult to trade. So that's also why it shouldn't be a family money trade. A family money trade is a trade where your setup is ingrained You're ready to go. You don't have to worry. Of course, you're going to still test, but you're comfortable and ready to trade it without excessive inconsistency. So now you go to April. And these are the real trade rooms. I want to show you them first before I show you my testing. So a lot of time goes into deciding what to do with a report. Tremendous amount of time by multiple people. And sometimes you still have uncertainty as to how to trade it because some events just respond incredibly inconsistently. So you could see that this filled on the short side, both orders. I mean, on the long side, remember when it moves down, we're buying. When it moves up, we're selling. And this was a successful trade. And we were testing, okay, in April. That would have been a nice winner. So that's one of the first where you could say that would have been a nice winner. Then you go to last month. You go to May. $12 and $22 on the tiers. Quite a bit of volatility in gold before the move, before the news. There's the setup. I don't recall what happened in May, to be honest. The news, you also had export prices with retail. Usually not a dramatic report. So you had a fill to the long side, both direction, and then you had a change in direction. So we got out with a small win, and that could have been a good move also because it kept going up in a reversal. So you could say I got out of that maybe a little too early. And then it headed down. The point is, it looks like we may have a setup that's working because you have two trades in a row that look pretty good. Now, one of the complicating factors is you've got PPI thrown into this report. So here's PPI in May, traded with Thursday jobless claims. Just to make everything even more complicated, you've got the PPI report, which on its own can be a tradable report. All right, so here's PPI with jobless. Not a trap trade, it's a breakout trade. Slow response, which we've been seeing, and target one is a hit. And I moved up. Look at that chop. So it looks like you could grab target one. The NQ looked pretty interesting on that trade that morning. And we do trade the NQ sometimes on news. CPI in particular is one of the ones. So PPI, you can see that there's an effect, a pretty strong effect on the market with PPI by itself. Now, let me see. I wanted to show you one other thing. Okay, so I've got trap trade tests going back to January using our current setups, the setup that I'll use today. In January, it was January 15th using Ninja Replay. very, very small, just a $10. Let's watch it. So it moved well at first, and then sometimes you don't know how fast. See, right there, you could have taken your profit and you would have had a decent profit. But it also looked like it might go further down and hit the target. So you wait, and then in this particular case, it went the opposite way and took away all your profit. So we were only able to get out with a small profit. And that's just testing. It's just an example that, so not only do we have some inconsistency, but we have difficult trading. It's hard to trade this report on top of everything else. Marktime.is is the website to sync your time. Time.is. So I'm going to set up my trade because I have more testing I want to show you, but I just want to be ready. So I'm testing the trap trade, our current setup, and I'm using the new version. I stop. First of all, there's a daily market report today. The report has tiers of 10 to 12, 20 to 24. So I'm going to use, those are my orders. The stop is 15. So I can put my stop in there. One order, position one, position two, one order on each. And then the first tier is between 10 and 12. So you're going to probably get filled on the first tier. I'd be very surprised if we don't get a 12 tick. 12 tick move. So you can put it in the middle. You can put it 12. You can put it in the middle. You can put it at 10 if you want to. My setup and my testing was 12 on the first order and 22 on the second. The entry time is 8:30. It's the time of the trade. That's your correct entry time, 8:30. And then you have something called prep time. And on the DMM, it's set up for 40 seconds before the trade. I've been testing retail for months and months and months, with a prep time of 50 seconds, 10 seconds before the news. So I'm going to test it the way I've been trading it. I'm going to label it. GC trap, GC retail, trap. And that's all you set up. Everything else is default. Bracket center, price at the time is default. Average price bars is default. Wait for spike is default. It's called a trap trademark. Stop loss is 15. 15. Tier 1 is 12 ticks. Tier 2 is 22. And I would wait longer than 10 seconds before I cancel it. I would wait longer. So that's my setup. So I can apply it, I can okay it, and I can check it. Now we added one of the upgrades that we made to the trap trade is we added the combine button, break even button. The cancel button is not cancel the trade, it's cancel the outer order. If you get filled on your first order, your closest order to current price, and it turns around on you, you can cancel that outer order. Let's check our time for time sync. Now, just as a heads up, folks, I will not be able to be here this afternoon for the 20-year bond trade. I had an appointment that, unfortunately, when I made the appointment, the bond trade wasn't on the calendar. Time dot is so my time is exact. And then I want to show you some other tests. So we looked at January. Now this is February's trap trade. Same settings I'm using today. So you go to February. Ten seconds before 8:30, my orders go on the chart. It fills rather quickly in February. And it stops. Okay. It just keeps going. March. Orders go on the chart. Very slow fill in March. Very slow fill. It's 30 seconds and it hasn't filled it. Almost filled on the upside. There it goes. It bursts. It fills you. Fills the second order. Now you're looking for a reversal, not a continuous move in the same direction. And you get that reversal in March, a nice one. So boom, you can take a profit, move up your target. Probably should hit the close button. So instead of fooling around, you grab your profit. Waited too long. See, sometimes if you wait too long, that profit can disappear because this particular trade is very choppy. Can be. Then you have April. Similar setup. Yeah, I will, Mark. Hang loose. And it fills. And now in this case, see how it didn't fill. There's your reversal. So that would have worked. Okay. Quick, let's go over the settings one more time. Someone's asking. Trap trade. Now, when you look at your settings, you have to uncheck your settings so you can see them. All you change is the stop. You make it 15. Tier 1 is 12. Tier 2 is 22. Entry time is 8:30. Order prep is 10. That's the setup. Everything else is default. Position size 2 is a 1. Position size 1 is a 1. Now, this is the new version of the software, which is not out yet. Soon. Stop is 15. In the old version, you may have to change stop loss position from average price to last fill price. Make sure you do that. And position size 2 is on 2, I believe, instead of 1. So make sure it's a 1. So one more time, you've got one position on position size 2, one position on position size 1. Tier 1 is 12 ticks. Tier 2 is 22 ticks. Entry time is 8:30. Order prep is 10 seconds. And what the order prep means is the trap trade orders are going to go on the chart 10 seconds before the news comes out. The reason I'm waiting 10 seconds and not 20 is gold has been quite volatile this morning. I would prefer not to have my orders on the chart 20 seconds before the news in case there's a big jolt. I don't want to get filled before the reported news. Now, if I had to guess, I don't like to guess, but if I had to make an educated thought, my thinking is retail is up. I think retail is going to be very strong. I think core PPI is going to be up. Prices are up. So that's actually mixed news. Inflation news being negative is not good. Prices being up is not good. Retail sales being up is good. So if everything's green, it's actually mixed news. Makes it a little bit tricky. Correct market's 10, not 45. Order prep for 45 seconds is the way we did it in the old days. In the old days, we used to put the trap trade on. I used to always use 30 seconds of preparation. Now, in my heart of hearts, my gut feeling, I'm not live on this trade, Mark. It's not a family money trade. My heart of heart, I think the trap trade's going to work. It's been showing a good propensity to work. The tricky part of today is the extra attention the market is putting on the PPI. I wish the PPI was trading by itself this month because I think that would be a strong trade by itself. I think Empire State, it might come out on time, it might not. I don't think anyone's really paying that close attention to it, even though it's a manufacturing report. It does have importance. It's New York State's manufacturing report. So we did check our time sync, right? Now, there's a lot of folks on YouTube. Not one person has given us a like for showing the way we trade. How about giving us a like over there? Actually, I don't, Mark. If you followed all of them, this morning's email and yesterday's email explained that it would be decided in the trade room, and I decided last night and emailed this morning. So that's the reason you come into the trade room, because these markets are tricky, and sometimes I've got to test up until the last minute. Sometimes that's the amount of time that I have. I actually was testing up until yesterday. And actually, just so you know, I mean, the video explains that I was testing. It wasn't 100%. and it had question marks on it. So just so you know, you got to really just make sure you check all the emails every morning before every trade room. We send a pro trade room login, and this morning's was not a family money trade. Check your spam folder. Okay, now, and 10 seconds before 8:30, my orders are going to show up on this chart here. Okay. Now I'm recording this. We can go over it after the trade. But gold is volatile this morning. The ES is volatile. All the markets are going to be volatile all week because of the Fed. But the trap trade likes volatility when it's not all in one direction. There's my orders, okay? That's our base of operation, our main price, okay? The news is out. Empire State was very negative. Retail, surprisingly negative to me. Now, like I said, 10 seconds, I don't believe is long enough. So now you've got both orders filled. I think there's a strong possibility it'll reverse and get closer to these targets here. But there's no guarantee. And look at this move. It's going in one direction. Trying to reverse now. Almost stopped us out by 2 ticks, it looks like. 2 ticks. You're still taking a lot of heat. And part of the news, year over year retail didn't come out yet, which made things tricky. So now you've got a reversal with a strong upward move like you saw. You know, you can combine your orders, move them up, see if you can get a profit out of this. And you do, okay? So I think it certainly would have worked, which is what I thought in my heart of hearts, but I couldn't make that in good conscience. Look, it's continuing to go. So I didn't have to rush out. I did not have to rush out of that that news. But that was a definite trap trade that worked. So I think what we're seeing, you know, the question is, it's one of the trickiest. If we make it a family money trade, it's definitely one of the trickiest family money trades that we'll have, but it's certainly looking like it can be, because it's had enough reports that seem to really be working with the setup that we have, that it looks like it could work. So, I mean, this is why we test, though. Okay, you understand, testing is critical to deciding whether or not you're going to use it as a real trade. Let's look at the video. All right, let's look at the video. And I'll explain it again. Trap trades are beautiful, Mark. I love them. Now this trade was frightening. Let me show you why. Let me just render the video, which takes less than 10 seconds. So it's retail and PPI and Empire also. And Empire came out right on time, and it was pretty negative. And what's interesting is my boss, who created the trap trade, he did not feel that this should have been a family money trade. Obviously, I talk about it, discuss it with him. But ultimately, it's going to be my decision because I'm the one trading. So people can say what they think, but ultimately it's the trade room trader who makes the final decision. So there's our trap trade setup. Okay. Remember, it was 12 ticks and 22 ticks away from that arrow. That's the setup. 10 seconds before the news came out, and it was very safe and very calm. Now, just out of curiosity, look at the price 20 seconds before. Okay. Right here is where the DMM called for putting on the orders. And it was still safe with 20 seconds before the trade. In other words, you would not have gotten filled because gold calmed down before the trade. I would not cancel in 10 seconds. There's no trap trade in the world that I would cancel in 10 seconds because our testing has shown you've got to let the trap trades breathe, sometimes up to a minute. See how it filled both orders, and when it goes up, it's a short trade. It's a reversal trade. Keep that in mind. It came within 2 ticks of the 15 tick stop. Now, folks, honestly, my stop is 17 ticks. If I'm trading live on this trade, I'm using 17 ticks. I have seen too many close calls like this. Okay. I would have had 2 extra ticks on my stop. Now you get that reversal. I combined my orders. And look, there's no law that says you have to rush out of a trade. If you're willing to take the $300 loss, you can wait and see what transpires rather than move your orders the way that I did. I took a $250 profit, but I could have doubled that profit by being more patient. Okay. Because this particular trap trade worked like a charm. It worked like a charm. All right. I think the settings, they look good. When you have multiple reports trading at the same time, you're best off using the settings we use today. If you just have retail trading by itself, there is a note on the daily report, and I want to show it to you. Let me see if it's on the current daily report. It's been on previous ones. Bear with me for 1 second. I just got to find it. All right, so yeah, and the note is still there, which is good. So with the trap trade, you can even use a smaller 15 to 18 ticks for the spike. In other words, instead of using 20 to 24, you could use 15 to 18. So I would reserve that as a possibility when retail trades by itself. When you add in PPI that the market is really looking at, and the PPI was higher than expected, not nearly as bad as I thought it would be. Okay. But it still was higher, meaning the prices are higher. That's not great news for the markets. But the trap trade, you want mixed news. And if you think about it, we didn't really get mixed news. We got negative retail news, and we got positive PPI, which I explained before is actually agreeable news. PPI is negative, prices up, potentially negative for the market. However, you could say, it's not nearly up as much as maybe the market was thinking. So, it could be construed as good news. And that's the challenge of trading news reports always. The challenge is always, how does the market interpret the data? You don't always know how the market's going to interpret the data. Okay? Exactly, Mark. The toughest part of all the news is deciphering it. Now, while we're here, I just wanted to talk to people about this afternoon's trade. Okay? This afternoon's trade, the one I cannot make, and I apologize, but I've been having a minor problem with my back, and I couldn't get an appointment with this doctor. It's like, it's easier to see the president. So I couldn't cancel my doctor appointment. So I've been waiting a month and a half for it. But I was so upset when I saw that the appointment was 20-year bond is today. Let me show you, but a lot of people are here. Let me show you last month's 20-year bond. The 20-year bond report is a family money trade. All the bond reports, in my opinion, are family money trades. I use a 3-tick bracket, folks. Especially on the 20-year bond, it says 2. On the DMM, I use a 3. I would rather get a small move, a small profit or a small loss, rather than getting brought into the market on the wrong side. Okay? So the setup, the only thing I would change is I would use a bracket of 3. I found this trade. Okay? This is my trade. In this case, I do not agree with a bracket of 2. All the testing I did, months and months and months of testing to take this trade and add it to our arsenal of trades, was all tested with a bracket of 3. Yes, many times it's safe with a bracket of 2. But there's that 1 or 2 times where that bracket of 3 is going to get you filled on the wrong side. So last month, let's take a quick look at what happened, just because I won't be able to be here. And if you decide to trade it on your own, I use ZB only on these bond trades. I just like the way that ZB responds best. ZN would be the only other possible option. No other option for me on these bond reports. No UBs, no ZF. Okay. And the orders go on the chart. No, Mark, I can't. My appointment's exactly the time of the report. My appointment's exactly the time of the darn news. When I tell you I was disappointed, I didn't know until the last second. Every time it's my fault. I'll take the blame. I didn't really, it wasn't on the calendar yet because it was too long ago, but there is a way to check. Not sure I could have gotten an appointment anyway, so it might all be a moot point. So you could see it was a very slow reaction last month, 1301.30. And there's the move. It hits the first target. I'm already up money. The point being, I want to be kept safe with the 3-tick bracket. Okay, that's what I prefer, being kept safe. Sometimes it's really tough to get out of the bond reports because there is so much liquidity. There's so many orders. Sometimes it's the opposite. It's just as difficult to have so many orders waiting you don't get filled. Not getting filled can be as bad as getting a bad fill, right? Now, yes, our software has an unattended mode. I could set up the bond trade. No, Mark, it's part of the breakout software. It's part of the breakout software. Entry type. Mark, you got to watch the movies please watch the movies, the videos that are on the website. Back to school videos, please. Watch some of those videos. They'll explain all the software setups. So those bond trades, I was saying you could set up unattended trading. Now, we put that in there for people that insisted on it. I don't trade unless I'm at my computer. What happens if you get into a trade and your internet goes down? No, not you, Mark. Different Mark. Mark I. Make sure you watch the videos on the website. I don't want to be in a trade if something goes wrong and I'm not at my computer to watch it. I used to trade at night when I was asleep with my computer right next to my bed when I traded overnight news. And I would wake up, watch the trade, make sure nothing went wrong, because technology is imperfect. Something can happen that you could lose your internet, or anything could happen. Your broker's data feed could go down. CQG could have a problem. So yes, you can trade unattended. It's really best if you're in the office right next to your computer, and that was the point also for testing. Mark was asking, he couldn't find a certain setup. So Mark, if you have a strategy, and the strategy is the breakout strategy. So let's say you're putting on a breakout trade, which is one of our most popular trades. If you scroll down to the trade type, that's where a multitude of different setups are. One-click range trade, reversal trade, squeeze play, all that stuff. Okay. Trade type, breakout, range trade with zones. We have a lot of different setups. And when the new trap trade is finished, I plan to have a webinar for all of our members just to re-go over using the software. Even though there are a million videos on our website explaining how to use the software, I highly, highly recommend everybody, please, watch the back to school videos on the software. All right? Watch the back to school videos. Now, what we were talking about, unattended trading, right? There's an option where you can put on a trade in unattended trading mode. It's unattended. You can put the date in, and you should practice it, okay? So for instance, it'll cancel the trade. It has an option, unattended mode, right? Unattended max duration. You could put a minute, right? Now it happens to be set for a very long period of time. And if you don't get filled, close the trade, or if you do get filled, I should say, if you do get filled, it can close the trade, okay, in a minute or 2 minutes or 3 minutes. Because if you're trading unattended, you probably don't want to leave open trades on for a long period of time. So that's something everybody should practice. Unattended, you can put the date in, how long you want it to trade if you get filled. You can actually put a percentage in if you lose this percentage of money. That was the protection we put in. But ultimately, unattended mode is really great if you want to test, you want to see how a trade would have worked and you can't be at your computer. I don't personally recommend trading unattended because of all the possible technology issues that could take place and make a trade do something to your account that you don't want it to do. It's always best to watch and pay attention. Any other questions, folks? We will be back. We will be back with an official room at 4 p.m. for the oil report, the 20-year bond auction. You know, they've been, if you look at the DMM, remember that it's based on a 2-tick bracket. Okay? It's based on a 2-tick bracket. But you can see that it's been a very solid trade with good moves. Very solid trade with good moves. 9 ticks of movement. April was a little small. February was a very big move. March was a stop. January was a win. You can see this is why it's a family money trade. 5 out of the last 6 were winners. All right. Retail is now looking pretty good. I will probably make retail a family money trap trade. You got to be willing to risk $340 because that's what my stop would be. All right. That's what my stop would be. It's not all that big for gold. And, you know, at this point, we don't know what other news will be trading with retail. But going back, looking at all the testing, looks very tradable with our new setup. And the trap trade is relatively new. Retail has been an inconsistent report for a very long time. For a very long time. Any questions, folks? So thanks on YouTube. This trade today was simulated, Steve, because it had not yet reached our family trade qualities. And we always announce and always tell people whether we're trading live or in sim. We don't play games. And we're on a new method of trading that we're going to do for months. And we'll continue with it. As long as it's working, as well as it's working, there's no reason to change. Here's the problem, Mark. Unfortunately, we have absolutely zero control over whether emails get to people or don't get to people. All I can do is make sure that you're on all the proper lists. I will send you, I'll answer your email. You need to whitelist or email. There's things you can do on your end. It's a shame, but there's absolutely nothing that we can do. The problem with email today is the ISPs assume that everything being sent is spam. It's an incredible, incredible problem. I send the emails to myself, Mark. I don't get half the emails. It's an incredible problem. And that's why, of course, that we have the trade room to keep everybody absolutely up to the most current situation. Look, if someone's going to trade events and they make the decision to trade it all by themselves, it's adding risk. It really is adding risk. Chantal, I'm personally on Gmail, Chantal. It did not solve my problem. Sometimes I'll get the email a day later. Sometimes I'll get it a day later. I mean, Mike, I agree, and that's what I'm saying. The absolute best thing to do is You can always get the reports off the website. I post them 24 hours in advance. They stay up for 24 hours roughly every daily report. But we never know also how volatile are the markets going to be. What last minute testing did we do that has us thinking that we might want to change our targets, right? This is trading. Trading is it's very difficult to say we're going to do it exactly this way because we did it this way last month and it worked. That's just a baseline. And I do agree that the ultimate, yeah, I'm very surprised. Now, see, the welcome email comes from a different server. That's what's really strange. So I'll definitely check mark and make sure that you're enabled for everything. In fact, I'll do it today when we get out of here. But and you're set okay, Mark, anyway. Your subscription is Trade Room included. So, and I remember you from before. So it's very rare that there will be a question mark on a family money trade like there was today. And I also recommend that people watch the video version of the weekly schedule, because I will make comments just about how I feel about the trade or the report, whether I think I might trade it live in our test account, because ultimately a report needs to be traded live to prove that it truly is a winner. Now, the one thing to understand about the trap trade is because it's a reverse direction trade, it's a low slippage trade. And it does actually respond similar to real life, whereas a breakout trade doesn't always show the proper amount of slippage in a sim trade. A breakout might not always be accurate in the ultimate testing. You have to go deeper with your testing to make sure that you have a proper result. And I have instituted a weekly wrap-up, Mark, on Fridays, especially because in the summer, Fridays tend to be quiet. So I am going to do a weekly wrap-up, and I'm going to go over everything on the schedule, almost everything on the schedule, almost everything. Because we're always looking to add things that are on trades and reports that are on the schedule to family money. Yeah, I like, I'm just calling it a weekly wrap-up, Mark, which is pretty dull. But I agree. I should market it better. All right, folks. So, I'm a little bit frustrated. We could have taken this live. Think about this for a second when you're learning about the trap trade. And there's nothing wrong with using the version that's on the website. It's very usable. I've done some nice upgrades to the new trap trade. And I'm meeting with the programmer, I hope Friday, to solve the problem that we have. We don't have a programming problem or a features problem. It's just not showing that the trade's activated because a graphic isn't showing up. It's the craziest thing. So hopefully we'll solve it this week, and then I can get everybody going on the new trap trade. But you can, up on the website, there are 3 videos at least that I posted on using the trap trade. So you can take a look at that. The P&L on my account right now, Steve, is up. We funded this account with $15,000, and since we started doing family money trades, I've brought this account up to 17,182, and it's going to be part of our webinar, Steve, but we've never been over 17. on this account. Look, being honest, folks, if you want real honesty, if you trade events and trade most of them, it's probably a 50-50 scenario. But if you do what we're doing now and what we did before the world crisis with the prime trades class, family money is just a new version, really, if you think about it, of prime trades. It's very similar, but the reports are different because the world crisis changed the markets. The markets will never go back to the way they were. Nothing ever returns exactly to the way it was, so you've got to pivot. We did have more prime trades, Mark, but it wasn't that many. It wasn't that many more, honest. And we had some primes. We had some trades that should have been prime and weren't. So the whole thing is, I love trading safe. And as long as everybody can deal with the issue of not over trading, then you'll have a much, much better chance of making money. Over trading is, one of the most, not reckless, but it's one of the most harmful things you can do to your account balance. If you overtrade, the market's going to take more money than it gives you. The key is to trade as little as possible and get the maximum amount of profit. That's what I believe. Now, I'm not the only one who believes that, but there are people who believe trade a lot, make more. Everybody trades differently. All right, folks. So don't forget, you've got a 20-year bond trade that has a good record. And then we'll be back here at 4 p.m. for oil. YouTube folks, thank you so much. Give us a like, subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell so you know the next time we're going to be here. We stream at least 4 times a week. All right. So thanks, everybody. I'll see everybody at 4. And that's it. We're done for the day. Chantal, you know what to do. And I'll see everybody later. Thanks, folks.